Um, Hello, Vanessa.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for
Having a
coming.
good day?
Yes, thank you as well. And you?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm good. Just a little ill today. Well, I have been, but aside from that, I'm good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Taking
Yeah, I think there's
medication?
like a
Uh-huh.
flu going around, I think so.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Take lots of vitamin C.
Yeah, I'm trying. Lots of orange juice and eating some oranges and different fruits and stuff. So, yeah. How
Yeah.
are you?
I'm also good. I've had a busy day because we are traveling to Samburu because of a project this
Okay.
week. Yeah, so
Oh, wow, nice.
yeah,
So
it's
you're in Samburu now,
no, no,
or?
no. I'm in Nairobi, but next week we're going to Samburu.
Ah, okay, next week. Okay.
Yeah.
It's super, super dry there. My mom and my sister were just up in Samburu about a month ago, and it
Okay.
was really dry. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, so take enough like sunscreen and stuff like that. And yeah, it's sad. We need some rain.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
we
What
really do
part of
need
Samburu
some.
are they in? Sorry.
Um, Reteti sides. They
Okay.
went to Reteti.
That's the
Yeah, so
park?
they were there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so they
Hmm.
were there.
Interesting.
Yeah, they drove. So it was, yeah, they said it's super dry. As
Okay.
soon as you turn off, it gets really, really dry.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm sure you'll have a good trip. It's for work.
Yeah, it is for work, a project. So
Oh, nice.
definitely carry some hydration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely do like hydration salts and stuff. Because even Nairobi is just, I mean, the heat is ridiculous. It's
Sure.
so hot and there's no rain, which is
Yeah.
really sad.
I know.
Hopefully next week, I think we'll get some rain. Fingers
Really?
crossed. Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's I think what my weather app was telling me.
Oh, really? But I don't
Yeah, let
trust
me check.
geologists anymore. Is it metrologists? I think.
Yeah, there. Well, it's saying Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. It's supposed to rain.
Okay.
So that would be really good. We need the
Yeah.
rain
Indeed. Indeed.
because there's no food, there's no water.
I
It's
know.
so bad. So
Yeah.
how long did you work at Isipe for?
Oh yeah. 1 year, 1 month. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. Super consistent with the 1 year, 1 month.
Yeah. I think
Uh-huh.
it got to a point. I was young. It was just where I went to exactly after I graduated. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I think I was so anxious to see what the world held for me that
Yeah.
maybe I should have given it more time. I ask
Well,
myself.
no, I think, with experiences like that, I mean, I think you made the decision for a reason at the time, right? Just because the reason may not be so valid anymore now, I don't think that's how to live life, right? Because when we look back, we'll always say, "Oh, I should have or I could have," but in that moment, we did it for a reason, right? The situations were different. So, yeah, I think maybe you possibly outgrew it and you're like, no, it's time to do something else. And that's
Indeed.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was nothing
And you
to
can always go
lose.
back. It's
Well,
not going anywhere.
yeah, but now that I've started ICSS, I think I just want to flow with this, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. I always tell people with places, especially like countries or, university people say, I really miss university. And I'm like, you can
Yeah.
always go back, just not right now.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. So
No,
you'll be good. Yeah. And
sure.
how did you meet the other speakers?
Actually, all on LinkedIn. I just went on
Ah, okay.
LinkedIn and Googled, ideally mental health advocates, and I
Right.
just went out messaging everyone bold.
Oh, that's nice though. Yeah, I think it's a good platform for that rather than like Instagram or Twitter or,
Yeah,
LinkedIn's a bit more serious.
yeah, I concur with that.
Yeah.
I want to meet someone else, so I think we can just sort of
Yeah.
we're sort of catching up, and I don't think
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
once we
Let
admit
me,
we're not
yeah,
able
I'm
to
gonna
connect
mute
again.
and
Okay, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, Welcome. Um, I was I was giving a period of about 10 minutes to allow others to join. A couple of us have joined in, and since one of our speakers is going to speak to us and then may have to drop off, I propose that we begin our discussion so that we can be able to keep time. Um, this session will be recorded, so it's going to be available on our YouTube page, as well as I will share a link to the recording to every attendant. So I begin again. Good afternoon, distinguished attendants and speakers. We are glad to have you join us today in discussing the state of the 21st century mind. My name is Barbara Mary Adhiambo, co-founder and executive director at Integrated Center for Sustainable Systems, also known as ICSS. One of our thematic areas is health, and in line with our strategic plan, we are privileged to host this webinar to discuss a growing concern in our society. Mental health issues are increasing worldwide. Depression is one of the leading causes of disability. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of deaths among 15 to 29-year-olds. We hope that the mental health issues can be addressed by every stakeholder in the community. It is an issue that affects anyone in the community, and hence there is need to embrace the affected and sensitize against stigmatizing them. So again, thank you and welcome to our discussion, and we hope that this discussion enriches your lives. To welcome our first speaker is Vanessa Akivumi, founder of Life Coach Kenya, a psychologist, a sports psychologist, a life coach, an art therapist, focusing on 5 pillars, which is spiritual well-being and emotional well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, and social well-being. She'll be talking to us about the mind development, the physical and social environment, how the mind has developed leading up to the 21st century. Welcome, Vanessa, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I know it was super last minute and stuff, but I'm super thankful to be here and a part of such a great cause, and I really appreciate it. I just wanted to put up the PowerPoint. So could you just enable me to share?
I think you're enabled.
Oh, okay. No, it's
okay.
host disabled.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. No, you're fine. So when we're talking about this particular subject, I think it's a little bit difficult to sort of have everything in one for, for having 15 minutes or 20 minutes to sort of talk about it. So it's actually going to be a little bit more scientific based. And then if anybody has any questions regarding mental health or how they sort of connect, then feel free to ask me a question. The reason why I wanted to take it more scientific is because I think in order to understand our mental health and understand why or how we've evolved, it's really important to understand the basic science behind it so that we can understand how far we've truly come and where we actually started. So before I get started, I just wanted to know, can you guys see, or is the talking screen making it?
No, we can see.
Is there a banner? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. We can see.
Okay. So I think we're good there. Okay. So how has the mind developed leading up to the 21st century? So moving with times, I want you guys to think about these specific terms, specifically digital literacy. So collaboration, digital literacy, critical thinking, problem solving, innovation, and travel. I just want you guys to take the time to just think about them and just have them at the back of your mind whilst we're going through this presentation. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I'm going to take us back a little bit now to the evolution of the brain. So there have been three major sort of evolutions. I don't want to get too technical, but there's been the reptilian, the mammalian, which is also known as the limbic, and there's the human, which is also known as the neocortex. As you can see, the reptilian is the smallest portion of the brain because that is the oldest portion of the brain. So when we started to evolve, we started with just the reptilian brain, which took into consideration decision making. So that was when we were sort of thinking about very simple things. Do I go for shelter or do I get something to eat today? Right. So it was very basic thinking. And we didn't have the emotions that we have now. We didn't have the rational thinking. That came later. Now with the limbic system, which controls our emotions, and then the neocortex, which controls our rational thinking. So when we look at it a little bit more in depth, the reptilian brain is our instinctive responses to things, like I'd mentioned. So it controls the language of your body, not necessarily what you say, but our body language and sensation and impulses. So it's more of that fight or flight within you, right? Then we get to the mammalian brain, or the limbic system, which is also your emotional experiences, your memory, your language, your emotions, your feelings, your tones. So that's when now we start to get into a little bit more of the mental health side, where it takes into consideration how we feel, what we do with things, how we articulate ourselves, right? And then we get to the neocortex, which is the newest part of our brain, which is now the intellectual aspect. So it's our functioning, our verbal language, our conscious thought, and our self-awareness. So the awareness of, I know what I'm saying to somebody, and I know how that could possibly affect somebody's emotions. We're very rational. We know how things could pan out. We have the ability to project things. So it's also your thought and your expression that part of the brain controls. So that's why it was really important for me to sort of show you these three parts so that we know already how far we've come. That our brain, before, we were just simply thinking about very basic necessities, needs over wants. Whereas now we're able to articulate ourselves better. We're able to recognize emotions. We're able to convey ourselves with emotions. We're able to have empathy for people. We're able to learn new languages and be with ease, right? So that's why it was really, really important for us to know the functions of each of the evolutionary stages, and also to understand that there has been a lot of evolution, even though sometimes we take our brain for granted. And that is actually something that we do quite often. It is one of the most complex organs in the entire world, or if not the most. So thoughts are not just in your mind, but they are in your body. So this is also something that relates now to like the psychological aspect, where neurons link sense receptors across the entire system in the central nervous system, and your unconscious mind to your muscles, which influences then your whole body, right? So sometimes we don't know when we're doing things. We don't have to consciously think about breathing. We don't have to consciously think about walking. When you're going to brush your teeth, you don't think, okay, I need to pick up my toothbrush and then put it under the water and then get my toothpaste. We're not thinking like that anymore because our subconscious has taken over, right? And this is because our brain has something so incredibly special, which is neuroplasticity, right? This enables us to adapt, change, and learn, which is why I think it's so important in terms of mindset. Because when we think about a change in mindset, it's because we're training ourselves to think in a different way, which all starts with neuroplasticity. So having said this, it's actually enlightening to know that we have the ability to restructure things the way that we want to. This is something I do with a lot of my clients, whether they're athletes or whether they are just regular clients that are not interested in sports. It is something that we actively work on doing through things like EFT or visualization processes, where we work on mitigating anxiety through visualization, through affirmations. And I know for a lot of people, this sounds very far-fetched, that how can I train my mind to think in a different way? But because we're neuroplastic, it is possible. It just means it has to be repeated over and over and over and over again. And it becomes like walking. It becomes like brushing your teeth. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. The way I'm talking about it now, everyone's like, yeah, I'll sign up to do that, no problem. But it takes a lot of work, and it's not as easy as I say, but at least we know it can be done. So this is why I thought it was also important for us to know a little bit about the neurons and our neuroplasticity, because that influences how our mindset has also changed over time, right? Especially linking back to what we're talking about here: collaborations, critical thinking, problem solving, innovation, right? We've had to change with times because problem solving has become more important. We see a problem in this world and someone is there to solve it, right? Because we're trained to think a little bit differently now, not to just enjoy our environment and enjoy where we are right in this moment, in this world, in the same country, but we're able to travel, we're able to innovate, we're able to find easier ways of doing things. And that's what has pushed our mentality and our mindset a lot further. So how does this all relate to mindset? Remember a few of those words that I just showed you? Well, a lot of them are here, right? So our environment also changes our mindset. Sometimes we have different mindsets in different parts of the world or different parts of our country, right? That can simply change the way that we think about things. And before the 21st century, that was probably not an option, right? Because everything was somewhat monotonous. You had the same sort of worries, the same sort of goals, and most of it was more of survival. But now, because of socialization, because of the change in our technology, because of our challenges, because of interactions, we have a lot more to think about. We've expanded our world. So even when we talk about fight or flight, right, our stressors are so different right now than they used to be, right? Some of us stress about, am I going to wake up on time for work? Whereas before, that wasn't so much of a stressor. The sun used to wake you up, right? So that's also changed your mindset, is that now I'm working for something else. I'm not just working for me and my food and my shelter. I'm working for something greater. I'm working to build a better house. I'm working to buy a house. I'm working to pay my rent for my house. I'm working to travel, right? So your stressor and your flight or flight option in terms of mindset really, really fluctuate, and you have a lot more to worry about now. So there was a study done and a theory created by Dr. Dweck, which talks about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So what is fixed mindset? Fixed mindset is someone who views intelligence, abilities, and talents as inherently stable and unchangeable over time, right? So this means that basically someone doesn't believe that you can become more intelligent, or you can craft a new talent, or you have greater abilities, or you can work on your abilities, right? It means that it's unchangeable. You stay the same, you're born the way you are. Whereas growth mindset is someone who views intelligence, abilities, and talents as a learnable and capable of improvement through effort. So like we're talking about, your brain is neuroplastic, right? So if you put in that effort, it means that you are capable of improvement. You are capable of learning new things. You are capable of becoming more intelligent in a different field or a different area of your life. So this poses an example that I want to give you, and it will warrant a question. And I would like you guys to type it in the chat once you have an answer, and then I will read through a couple. So this is the example. An aspiring entrepreneur, right? You need the basic finance skills to create budgets, understand payroll, things like that. With a fixed mindset, you may think, I'm not good at math. I could never create a financial statement. But what would someone with a growth mindset do in this situation? You're not good at math. That's okay. But what would someone with a growth mindset do? just hit me with some comments here. I'm gonna have to minimize my screen so I can check the chat. There's no wrong answer. Anybody? Or you guys could take a short course. Exactly, right? So you would be more willing to say, you know what? Let me just take a short course. Let me figure this out. Let me learn, right? And that was one of the key components of the growth mindset, is that talents and new things are learnable because of our neuroplasticity. So let me just build a team. Exactly. There's so many different options, which also influences our mindset, as I mentioned, right? We're thinking about how to tackle problems in a different way, right? So our mindset is not that I'm alone anymore, but rather, you know what, this is a challenge and I have other resources that I can bring into it, right? So that is basically your growth mindset. Thank you for that. So if there's anything that I want you guys to take away from today, is I want you to focus on the right part of the screen. Those are quotes that I think really influence our ability to grow and to learn and to have a positive mindset and to change your life for the better, because we're in this world that is constantly changing. And if we don't change with it, then we're sort of left behind. We're fixed in our ways. And that is something I know a lot of us will say probably about our parents. We'll say, okay, well, there's this new thing, da, da, da. And they'll say, oh no, I don't, I'm not too sure about this thing. And then you're like, no, it's okay, right? And that is more of the fixed mindset. But this generation, our generation, we're changing and we're able to be more open to new ideas and new values and new mentalities. And I think that's so beautiful. So I hope that all of you take away at least one of these quotes and it stays with you for the rest of the year. There's not much left of the year. So I'd encourage you guys to write it down next to you or something like that so that you can carry it with you, because everybody is capable of change. It is literally within our brain to be able to change and to be able to grow. It's what we feed our mind that influences our mindset. So our lives are shaped by what we see. Sorry, guys, again. Sometimes the chat gets in the way. There you go. Our lives are shaped by what we see, experience, learn, and understand, which shapes our mindset and our experience on this earth. Mindset will be forever changing and evolving, just as our physical bodies do, because like I mentioned earlier, the world is always changing. So another quote: great things happen to those who don't stop believing, trying, learning, and being grateful. So if you take one of those things away today, you will definitely have a different mindset in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for having me. Are there any questions? Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. I think I may have one question. And
yeah, please.
When you spoke about neuroplasticity, how long would one have to give themselves to have that change of mindset? Like a week, 2 weeks?
So I get this question a lot. I get this question a lot, and especially with people wanting to have sessions, they'll ask me, how many sessions do I need? And because everybody's different, everybody learns in different ways. So my answer to that is always, how long is a piece of string?
How long is?
A piece of string.
Depends.
It's different for everybody, right? If you cut it this long and I cut it that long, it's different, right? It's about making sure that you keep up with it. And eventually it does just become a part of you, right? So a lot of people will say it takes 3 weeks or 21 days to build a habit or to, alleviate yourself of a habit like smoking or something. But that's also not true for some people, right? You can, let's say, decide you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day and you do it for 3 weeks, but that just might be your first peak that you're climbing. That might be the hardest part, but that doesn't mean that it's ingrained and it becomes a habit, right? So it's something that you have to constantly work on until you don't actively think about it anymore, right? So the older we get, the harder it is for us to adapt to new things. That's why a lot of older people have trouble learning a new language comparatively to a toddler, right? Because their brain is starting to get wired, so it just becomes a part of the wire. But I think it's really important to just keep doing it and not to think about how long it's taking, but to rather enjoy the journey.
Indeed. And do you advise people to maybe, what can you do to grow your mindset? Maybe some specific stuff. How can
So
I
grow.
Mm-hmm.
So could you give me a bit more context, like in terms of what? In terms of
Like,
habits, in terms of
habits, activities, maybe stop raving, or stop hanging out with people, or read more books, or such things.
Okay. So I think something that I would tell anybody, the most important thing is to ask yourself why. So like you mentioned, stop raving, right? Was that one of them? Yeah. Why? Right? A lot of times we say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to travel to Paris, I want to stop smoking, I want to drink 2 liters of water every day. But we don't ask ourselves why. Is it because somebody else is doing it and you think it's a good idea? Right? So oftentimes we try to implement habits or new things into our life that we think are healthy because we've seen them, but we don't actually truly know why. And that also is the reason why a lot of people fail at making it a habit, is because there's no bigger purpose. So in terms of mindset, you have to understand why you're doing it. And number 2, you have to understand how you're going to do it. It can't be haphazard. So it's not like you either have to jump over the bridge or you're gonna stay onto it. So I think that's the most important thing. Ask yourself why, write down how, and then whenever you feel like you're tempted to go out and you know that you don't want to, you can always go back to that and remind yourself as to why you're not going or why you're doing X, Y, and Z.
That's really good. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And I know
no problem.
You may have to drop out at some point. But
yeah, I'm going to try to stay for as long as possible. And if anyone has questions, please feel free.
Yes, please. Anyone in the audience who would like to ask questions, you're welcome. You can just unmute yourself and ask.
I think everyone's shy still.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa, so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you as well. So we're going to move on to our second speaker of the day. Our second speaker is Mercy Wambua, a seasoned clinical psychologist with a specialization in psychological trauma and debrief services. She has 4 years experience of professional service. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in clinical psychology, a registered psychologist by the Kenya Psychological Association. And she's going to be talking to us about the challenges facing the 21st century mind. Welcome, Mercy.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can. Yes, I can. I hope the rest can as well.
Okay, hope you can also see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Great. So as Barbara said, my name is Mercy Wambua. I'm a clinical psychologist. And I really like what Vanessa has done with just laying the foundation on helping you see how our minds have shifted. because it's very easy for us to assume that people who lived in the 19th, 20th century reason the same way we do today. That in fact, they'd be very shocked. The world is would be a very unfamiliar place for them. So because of the advancements that have happened, then we are facing a lot more challenges now in the 21st century because there's almost too much going on. You know, what we would refer to as like information overload. We do not know when to stop, what to incorporate, what not to. So that's what we'll be talking about. So so just what my presentation looks like. So we have the introduction and it's just like continuing on to lay foundations from where Vanessa has left, some facts about the 21st century mind, then the challenges, and then we conclude. So like Vanessa has said, the way our brains were functioning earlier, we had very little things to worry about. You know, human beings had very little things to worry about. Just like let's hunt, get something to eat, and survive. It wasn't matatus or buying a car. It wasn't computers. It wasn't social media. So it was very much like she said, uh, one way of thinking. You know, there's only the same things to worry about over and over again. And even just psychology, the study of the human mind has really changed in how it's approaching this study. Because initially it was just on the functioning, like she said with the description of what the brain is like. It was basically just what does this part do? What does this part of the brain do? End of story, you know. But now it's moved more towards the how and why, you know. When they say you have depression, what part of your brain is affected? Why? Because certain neurotransmitters are either very low or some are very high for certain other mental health conditions. So that's the shift that has happened even just in psychology. And then it's important to note that the reason why our minds are right now is because the function of human is not only reliant on your genetics. Yeah, it's highly influenced by the environment, and that is why these shifts are happening because a lot is changing in the environment. Yeah, so the major thing that has really changed in the 21st century has been as a result of technology. Yeah, everything else that we see that has had major shifts is as a result of the technological advancement that we've gone through. So right now, the world that we're living in today has a lot of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. There's no one way of doing things. And that's why there's a lot of opinions on stuff. You know, that is why every nation in the world does things how they want. Because one person decides this is how I think our country should move, another person, another part of the world thinks, I don't think that's how it should be. And so there's a lot of complexity because everyone is looking at things very differently. So because of this, then it means that we are constantly worried about what the future looks like, you know. And then there's also the fear of the changing past, the things that you're used to doing. Because right now you cannot be like what Vanessa was talking about, you can't have a fixed mindset. Simply because things have been running like this, you can't decide, okay, if I'm living in this 21st century, I'll just decide to go live in the forest and hunt and gather. It's not gonna work for you. So because of that, then there's a lot of there's lack of stability in how things are running. One day things are okay, another time we have a looming third world war. You know, there's just so many things happening. Then this means that human beings are struggling with constant anxiety in this 21st century. Yeah. And so before we jump right into what the human mind is struggling with in this century, it would be impossible to separate that from what the challenges being faced in general in the 21st century. So just some facts about the 21st century mind. Vanessa touched on, you know, just the things just about collaboration, decision making, and all those things. So because of this advancement, I hope you can see what I call a photo that is there. You see all those things. That's basically what the human mind looks like right now in operation. There's too many things to think about here. So the most interesting thing that you notice about that is that we have faster information processing. One, because we have aid, and because we are exposed to a lot, so our brains are working a bit faster. There's a lot of creativity. Yeah. Certain things that exist right now a few years back, the people who were there, if they came into the world today, they'd be very shocked. Then there's greater problem solving skills. Like I said, everyone has an eye for something. You know, one problem can be looked at from very different angles by different people, and you come up with very many problem solving skills. While that is a good thing, it can also be a very bad thing because you can imagine too many cooks. When one problem, everyone wants to have an opinion about it, can be a problem. But then there's also critical thinking. You become very analytical. You look at one thing and dig deeper. Just find faults, maybe find things that are working, and so that's how we operate right now. Then there's flexibility, which you talked about, is neuroplasticity. This is just your brain's ability to adapt. And this is highly influenced by the environment mainly. So because we had to move from a period of time when global connection was a very difficult thing. If you wanted to know what was happening in another country, you probably would need someone to come back from that country and just explain what was happening. But now because there's a lot of flexibility in how we can access information, then it means our brains are constantly adapting to change. So now challenges that we are facing in the 21st century. The first thing would be technological disruption. Like I mentioned earlier, this has been the greatest shift in the 21st century. So now we have things like artificial intelligence. Why this could be a challenge is because you see, artificial intelligence is a mimic of the human mind and its operation. So there are certain jobs that are no, there are certain jobs that are gonna be extinct in a few years because robots are taking over. There's also sophisticated weapons. When you think about how wars are carried out in this day and age, it's very destructive. Long time ago, probably guns, just man-made weapons that probably were made out of wood or something of the sort. But right now we have really sophisticated weapons. I'm pretty sure you're aware of someone who was recently just shot by a sniper. You can imagine the accuracy and even just the calculation that goes into coming up with a weapon like that. Then we're also struggling with a lot of ecological damage in the environment, global warming. This is as a result of, first of all, you realize that the human population has almost quadrupled right now. We are almost like at 8 billion. So that means that we constantly have a lot of pollution from factories, from vehicles, and we are damaging the ozone layer. So that's another challenge that we are dealing with. Then the safety issue, safety in terms of like data. When you think about hacking and all the things that happen with social media, with your emails, with data, even up to what happens with like physical data, where you go to walk into buildings and sign a certain book and information is stolen from that. So you can imagine that technology is involved, as well as issues with terrorism. Then, like I said, World War, you realize like the war that's happening in Ukraine and Russia. Um, it's just a shift in power. Like I said, everyone has an opinion about how certain things ought to be done. And so when this person doesn't agree with this person, then there's usually the effect of just chaos. Yeah, and that's why we have a war. Then there's a lot of education shifts happening. Initially, when education was coming up, it was basically just where do we get information? End of story. How are we informed about this and that? But now it's moved beyond the where, because it's really available, to what do we do with this information. And that is why we are having a challenge, because in as much as being informed and having this knowledge is good, there are people now who are using this to their advantage. The other thing is the increasing inequalities in wealth and income. You realize that the gap between the wealthy and those that are struggling is becoming even higher. This is contributed by many things. Whatever currencies we are using, those shifts happen, corruption, and these are things that were very unheard of with such intensities in the past. So when you talk about what the 21st century mind is struggling with, now basing on what I've talked about that has laid a foundation, you realize that there are so many things that we have to deal with. There's a lot of things that we need to think about, a lot of problems that need solutions. And so what this in a nutshell has led to is that we are experiencing a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety because your mind doesn't settle. There's one thing to think about. There's children, there's school, there's work, there's settling. Like what you're talking about, Vanessa, is buying a house, there's getting a car, there's self-actualizing. So there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of comparison that's going around that's leading to a lot of anxiety. There's also increased risk of psychological burnout. The world nowadays is very fast-paced. There's too many things to think about at the same time. And so what that means is that you do not get time to take breaks and rest. We've gotten to a place where people have to work 2, 3 jobs, just to live a life that is comfortable. You constantly have to think about how am I solving this? How am I troubleshooting this even before actually exists? And so that would lead to burnout. There's also been a rise in mental health illnesses. I think it's Barbara who was talking about how depression is a major issue, especially between people aged 15 to 24 years. And with that, we've seen a lot of suicide rates going up as well. A lot of people are taking their lives. There's a lot of substance use disorders. And usually there's a debate between, do mental health illnesses cause like a substance use disorder, or do substance use disorders cause mental health? Sometimes it's difficult to ascertain because pressures of life, then how do you deal? If you cannot sleep, then someone has told you, I have come up with a drug that helps boost your melatonin, then you can fall asleep. So that's what you end up using. And so it could have been the stress that led to you first switching up to this drug, or it could be the drug that makes you worse. Then there's also the issue of the rise in social media. Despite it being a connecting factor, and people run businesses on social media, it does have its positives, but it also poses certain risks as well as economic constraints. So just want us to talk about this too. Talk about social media use and economic constraints. So like I said, social media is one of the most common online activities. Of course, huge. Now, just to give you some context. Sorry, I hope you can hear me because my internet is unstable.
Increase your tone because you're a bit low.
Is it better now?
Yes, please.
All right. So I was just saying that just to give you context on how social media has risen in the 21st century, it's just I'll give you some numbers. In 2021, the number of people who are using social media was around 4.26 billion. This went up to 4.59 billion in 2022, and it's estimated to go up to 7 billion in the next 5 years. So you can see how there's rampant growth in the use of social media. And so, like I said, the greatest advantage, of course, is global networking. But then there's the negative effects. So there's been a lot of cyberbullying. Yeah? So traditionally, bullying existed in form of physical. Sorry, someone saying something. Okay. So bullying was very traditional, right? It was like physical fighting and causing physical harm to someone. But now this has shifted and moved to, to the online streets, which is like through cyberbullying. And the reason why this is very rampant is because of the anonymity it brings. Because someone just goes online, takes their phone, more than one account, just pseudo accounts and lock their lives. Cyberbullying, it's been found to have really negative effects, and then as well as creation of an illusion. You realize with social media, a lot of this content is written. So there's a lot of unrealistic expectations. So what does that lead to? Anxiety, depression, and feelings of dissatisfaction. So like I said, it's only gained attention recently, and some of the effects that have been found include but are not limited to anxiety, depression, substances, and the increased risk of suicide. What I've already said about the illusion created, people are experiencing a lot of comparison. It feels like you need to fit within a certain box just to feel like you have made it, And so if you're not ticking all the things on that list, then it somewhat makes you feel like you're, underachieved. And that's why we are struggling with a lot of mental health. Can help cultivate ways to mitigate. And that's why I think such webinars and just mental health awareness programs are important, just to let people know that it goes beyond, and so long as you're taking it has an effect on your brain, it shifts your worldview, your mindset, and if you're not careful, it could do so in the negative. There is the economic stream. So there's been a lot of power shifts, like I'd mentioned, where people are really right. Initially, when Darwin was talking about survival for the fittest, if it needs. You lack territory and the like, but because of the advancements that we've gone through in this century per se, it's more about how do I amass all the wealth, how do I ensure that the people coming after me are sorted out. And so these kind of power shifts have led to a lot of friction problems in the world. So there's a lot of changes that have happened in the political and economic systems. And COVID is one such example of, just the major change that happened within this century. And you notice there's a lot of shifts that happen, employers realize they don't even need to see you in the office every day just to think that you're making, that you're working. Yeah. There are people who lost jobs. There's some jobs that are found to be redundant, like we don't really need people to run these things. Yeah. And so with these changes, world markets and currencies have been affected. Yeah. So there's a lot of, we are really going through a lot of economic constraints. And so when I think Vanessa had also touched a bit on this, when survival is threatened, that natural response for the human nervous system is just either fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah? So when it's difficult to make ends meet, you can imagine the levels of stress that we're experiencing, which then puts us more at risk of developing mental health illnesses. So I think the other thing that I wanted us to talk about is the challenges that are specific to students and parents. I think the education sector has also been very much affected by all the changes that have happened in the 21st century. Like I mentioned earlier, initially the goal was just how do we get information? How do we know why this does this, why this does that? And then now it's moved beyond that. Now it's about what do we do with the information that we have, And because the world is constantly changing, then it means that there's the need to constantly equip yourself with more knowledge. Yeah. So especially for students, you find that they're very unrealistic expectations of them. Just to excel in everything, education, extracurricular sports, music, all of those things, and it gives them a lot of pressure. Yeah, and then the system is constantly shifting. So you also need to ensure that the information that you have is not outdated. And then there's been a lot of changes in the technological, demographic, social, economic spheres where now it's not just about studying history because it's important to know where you're coming from. It's about how are we equipping these students with information that helps them become relevant to the current world. So there's a lot of shifts that's happening in the education system. Even in our country, we've just seen now we are moving from, just 844 to things that are a bit more practical with CBC. So that is happening. You can imagine how difficult it is now. That change, the transition from what was very common to something different becomes quite challenging. Yeah? So there's also increased risk for mental health, simply because right now the amount of effort that is put in by students is far much more than what has been experienced by people in the past. Students have to work really hard, so they do not get enough sleep. Their lifestyle is affected. There's increased levels of stress, there's inactivity. Besides now the sports in school, it's just like they spend a lot of their time in school. So when they get home, they're tired, what they're eating. So all these things now cumulatively lead to putting them more at risk for developing mental health issues, as well as other factors such as like cyberbullying, very common among the young people. Yeah. So there's also a lack of guidance and mentorship, because now parents have, initially it used to be the man that goes out to work and the woman stays at home and just takes care of the children. But now things are changing. Both parents are away or they are working late, and now children are being raised by nannies, probably some who do not have time to nurture them. So that's another challenge that they're facing, as well as peer pressure, which is at an all-time high right now, because you do not need to have someone narrate what's going on. You can just go on Instagram and see that the Malindi, they were in Dubai, and it's just like, what am I doing with my life? So those are some of the challenges that are specific to students and then to parents. This is what I've covered just in the previous post, where like they're changing dynamics in the home, Initially, children belong to the community. And if you walked around and found someone's child who was misbehaving, it was very easy for you to just have them toe the line. But now things are really shifting. Yeah, people are becoming very individualistic. It's just like gated communities, people do not talk to their neighbors. And so if you're not around, then you find your child has probably interacted with someone else at school, developed or learned some, some really, so these are some of the things that are having to deal with, as well as just a modernization pressure, because they're constantly comparing themselves, just like who is a better parent. There's constantly being told, no, don't do that, that's right. Do not expose your children below 3 years to screen time. Do not do this. So there's a lot of pressure around what parents are going through in terms of like parenting. And then as well as now the digital era, so children have a lot of access to information. And right now, you go to families and find people are seated separately, everyone is on their phone. So who is talking to the children? So when your child is going through a difficult emotional situation, it's very difficult to connect, because in as much as all these things fun, your children's emotional needs are still the same. So if you're not showing up for them as you should, then they are struggling, and as parents it becomes also difficult, because how then do they open up to you when they do them? Also, you find that sometimes parents are finding out things about their children a little too late. Then there's also information overload on parenting style. So just some parting short, yeah? When we started, I told you like the major shift in this 21st century has been artificial intelligence. Technological advancements, and artificial intelligence is one of them. So what has happened is that we are really trying to compete, the power of the human brain, to try and replace a lot of the things that humans would do with, say, robotics. So the goal in the previous centuries was survival. How do you lead healthier lives, happier lives? So now, can you imagine a world where science and technology are able to do all those things? Like you do not need to strain a muscle to achieve health. Like there's a way you can go and have your whole body transformed. You do not need to struggle with illnesses. You can be happy from, not having to struggle so much. So if science can and technology can solve all of that, then what will be the motivation behind human behavior in future? What would we be striving so hard to do? Because right now it's a lot about how can I make my life better, based on standards that have been set by the society. So when this is no longer there, just think about what your why would be. Because I think Vanessa talked about it when she was saying that in terms of shifting our mindset, our why is important. You just don't do because people are doing. But now think about when there's no standard for how you should behave, what would you be left with as a person? And that I've come to the end of my presentation. So in case there are any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Thank you so much, Mercy. I do welcome anyone who may have a question to please engage Mercy. Anyone, you can just unmute yourself, or you can text on the chat. I see Trufosa has said, thanks for this detailed conversation, Mercy. Very informative. Maybe I could also give a comment. As you have explained the challenges, it really highlighted the fact that it seems that humanity is trying to move away from the emotional brain. Like we are emotional beings. So I don't know if there's any development past the emotional brain, because the challenges that we are facing, it seems that we are striving to be sort of robotics, as non-emotional, move like what the machines are doing. And maybe this is what is causing, our current crisis in mental health.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why we're experiencing a lot of problems, because it's become a management society where you don't really think about. There's lots of empathy, and that's why there's a lot of problems. There's wars, there's increased crime, because it's just about how do I become better than the person that I can see. So it's no longer about how do we exist peacefully as a community, but how much can I own as a person?
Very true. That's very sad. I don't know how you're going to solve that challenge, but indeed, this could be the key that lies to solving the challenge in mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I welcome any other questions, please. Feel free, don't be shy. It's good to interact. We best learn from one another. And maybe I feel like, is it that people feel that mental health should not be talked about? Is that why people are quiet today? Even in this session, it seems that no one wants to speak out and speak up. Okay. Trufosa, could you just unmute yourself and share your thoughts just via voiceover, please? Okay, she said, I'm sorry, in a place I can't talk, but she's also said that unfortunately we don't even make time. Sorry, unfortunately, we don't even make time to listen to such conversations enough. So not all of us will be reached to know what we suffer. I'm not sure how we can bring, am I getting this right? Sorry again. I'm not sure how we can bring such conversations to everyone directly, almost by force. Yeah, I don't think we can force them though. I think it needs to be very innate in them for them to just come forward and sort of want to be human again. Okay, thank you, Mercy, so much for your presentation, for your time as well. Steffi says that I've learned a lot from this, looking forward to engage in such conversations. Indeed, thank you. And thank you all for coming. And thank you, Mercy, again for your presentation. It's only by understanding the challenges that we can be able to know how we can step into our solutions. And thank you for that elaborate presentation. And so I'd like to welcome our next speaker, who is Nancy, who's our third and last speaker for today, a registered member of the Clinical Psychologists of Kenya. She currently is a mental health program manager in an international NGO, and she's a CEO and founder at Topwell Wellness Africa Limited. Nancy conducts workplace mental health and psychological support, professional trainings, workshops and motivational and mentorship sessions. She's here to talk to us about best practices on how we can keep the 21st century mind healthy. Welcome, Nancy.
Okay, thank you so much, Barbara. I really appreciate for being given this opportunity to have a conversation in relation to the tips for 21st century minds. Personally, I'll be taking you guys through the best practice to keep to a healthy mind. I hope we can all see the screen.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So first of all is to appreciate my colleagues who began by, getting to help us understand a lot concerning our brain and how, you know, it responds and how it interacts with our body, and how, as a result, it really affects our mental health. It is very key. And you realize that all this is intertwined. And I'm just going to give a brief based on the time that we have on concerning how well we can keep our mind healthy. And I'll just relate in terms of what we've been learning today. And one thing I would like to just put across is the health of our mind is in our palm. Like, it's about us to take the responsibility for it. And it's about time to, you know, get to understand different issues that you're struggling with, things that we may need support in, what we need to work on, and, you know, to try and ensure we are having this healthy mind. And we realized from the previous presenter that there are a lot of challenges, especially in this 21st century, that we are facing. And it's up to us to have some level of awareness and being able to know that there are issues out here, there are things you're struggling with, the technology has grown to some extent, and there are things that we really need to work on ourselves to ensure that we are living healthy, because there's so many issues related to our health. And like the first presenter mentioned, everything is intertwined from the brain to the body. And if we manage to take care of ourselves in small ways, we'll be able to keep our mind healthy. And something to mention is that we are the center of the change. We are the center of the change, may it be in our mind, may it be in our bodies, in our spiritual aspect, you know, in our physical aspect, everything. We are the center, we are the change. And if personally I don't take responsibility of my health, no one else can. If I don't take up the skills, take up the learnings, take up the challenges and work on me, no one else may be able to do this for us. So it's about time that we get that awareness of knowing that no one else will come in to help us. Even if we seek professional support, the journey remains to be a personal journey. So, and that's why here I'm trying to say that when it comes to our well-being, when it comes to our mind, it's a path, it's a road. And the road is, you know, all of us may be at different level when it comes to this journey. We may be at the forefront of the journey, we may be at the middle, we may be starting up. I mean, it's a journey, and no one is perfect on this journey. No one has 100% tips on how to make it perfect. We all start, at times we fall back, at times we're not able to, you know, achieve the best of us, of ourselves, but it's I always say it's an intentional journey that we need to take it up. So what you talk about, when you talk about a healthy mind includes emotional, psychological, social well-being, which affects how we think, feel, act. It works in unity with our bodies and influences how we handle, stress. And also it and how one handles stress and relate to others and make choices in life. So meaning that on this journey, there is a lot that is engaged, because for us to keep our mind healthy, we have to learn that there are other social related or social determinants that are related into keeping it healthy. And at times when we pursue towards making it better, at times it's affected. When it comes to our emotions, when it comes to how we're thinking, you know, all that has been discussed previously really affects on our perspective or on how we work on our mental well-being. So how does the brain affect our health? Maybe I'll just give a brief or on a model that was done by Dr. Sarah called the bottom-up, outside in, the top-down. That is a model of brain health that was done by, like mentioned, Dr. Sarah. So when it comes, we mentioned about the bottom up. Sorry, kindly allow me to just put my screen, kind of missing out, sorry. So when we talk of bottom up, these are elements that are biological or physiological determinants of the brain health and include things like genes, hormones, the immune system, nutrition, exercise, and other lifestyle choices. When you talk of outside in, these are factors that come from outside and come within us or target us as individuals. And these elements include social and environmental factors, stress, life events, education, current circumstances, and family and background. These are all we call the social determinants, things that are coming outside and they meet us where we are, but they affect us directly, sorry, as individuals. Then we have the top down, which are the elements includes our thoughts, our emotions, our mindset, and our belief system. So in this model is trying to tell us that our brain is somehow intertwined with even the factors that may cause a lot of distress or cause a lot of psychological distress or factors that affect us in our health when it comes to our mental well-being. So this is just a brief on what I've mentioned. And it's good to note that not only do these many elements determine the health of the brain, but each element can also impact others in complex, multi-directional and dynamic ways, often coordinated via the nervous system. And I'm glad that the first presenter did something that was very comprehensive to help us understand how our brain functions and how we're able to, the chemistry of our brain and how it affects our physiology or how it affects affects our bodies and our health. So for example, our thoughts can influence our physical health, which is why psychological stress can lead to heart disease. Then two, our social environment can directly impact our brain health. For folk who are socially isolated or at a greater risk of dementia, your physical health and mood are intimately intertwined, which is why exercise is key for emotional regulation. So what we're trying to talk or say is that the other factors, you see, like what Mercy was discussing about these factors that currently the 21st century factors that are here, the technology currently has changed. And the people have gone back into more in that space of technology and forgetting about the social relations. So you find and identify technology has an impact into our health because we're so much into the technology and these factors from outside coming inside to affect even our health. We forget to go for, to exercise. We just want to be more of TikTok, more of, the social media aspect of it. And we forget the need for us to go out, to reach out to, to share our issues. Most people are looking into how many people are following me on my Twitter handle or on my Instagram or page or LinkedIn, all that aspect of it. And you realize at times it somehow affects individuals based on the issues that or how they relate or how they perceive the followers who are currently facing them. So what maybe to mention today is how can we change our habits? What are some of the things that we may need to consider to keep our mind healthy? And I'm just going to give a brief. I may not be so comprehensive in it, but just a brief on it. So habits to adopt for brain health, well-being, and a flourishing life. Not all factors are modifiable. You can't do much about your genes or family or where you're born into. But remember, there are things you can do something about, especially concerning those with the aspect that you're learning from outside. And even the top-down aspect of it, of how we think, how we perceive things, the negative thoughts that we allow in our mind can be stopped to try and have more of positive thinking in our daily lives. Like how my presenter said, the previous colleague mentioned, the more information we put in our mind, it's the same information that is portrayed physically through our behaviors. So maybe to start with some of the habits we can try. First, one of it is sleep. And like Mercy has mentioned, at times, personally, at times being a victim, you may find yourself so engaged in the social media. Maybe you're trying to catch up what is someone saying, and you find at times you may sleep late and you distract your routine of sleeping. You wasted a lot of time. Maybe you had an assignment, something that you were meant to work on, but time on your phone has just wasted some bit of the time that you could have been more productive. And the other day, there was some discussion concerning workplace mental health, and they were mentioning about how employees nowadays are getting more distracted at work through the social media handles or through the phone, and they end up not being productive. They work under stress because later when they realize a deadline is you're nearing the deadline, that's when they rush to try and complete some tasks that were supposed to be met earlier on. What happened during the day, if you assess, most of them may be wasting a lot of time in their phones, maybe in the emails, a lot of emails coming in, and and this has at some point affected the aspect of production, the aspect of their success, even within their workspaces. So when you talk about sleep, we mention a good night's sleep every night should be a priority, not a luxury. Sleep is overlooked and appreciated, and the number one fundamental bedrock of good health. Sleep deprivation, even a few hours a night, impacts cognition, thinking, mood, memory, and learning, and leads to chronic diseases. We talk of sleep is essential for consolidating memories and for draining waste products from the brain. So when you don't get enough sleep every day, and this every day happens, it's a routine, it ends up affecting an individual and even their brain in terms of their health, their physical health. So it is very key to ensure that we get enough sleep every day. If possible, create a routine that is workable, whereby at a particular time you're in bed, so that at a particular time you're able to wake up and ensure you're able to keep up with the day's activity. But at times you find it's a challenge, maybe based on some assignment, based on the issues that individuals may be facing. But if someone makes it intentional to ensure they get enough sleep, is very key. And this can really be helpful into the well-being of their mind, into the well-being of their physical health. Another aspect you're looking at it is physical health, or generally just being active. And currently you find that even after COVID hit, and currently most people have been working from home, or rather you find most people are working in the spaces whereby they are doing remote, they're working remotely. They may be in the office, but throughout in the computer. So you find that they don't get enough time to be active. They don't get enough time to to do the essential things that are very key. So any form of activeness in terms of, it could be a walk, it could be in the gym, it could be, anything that individuals may feel comfortable with, it could be very helpful and very effective. It could be you're walking your pet, it could be playing, it could be, interacting and having some outdoor activities with friends at work. This is very essential. And we say move. The best exercise for your brain is physical exercise. Daily exercise increases blood flow to the brain. Exercise triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes neuronal growth and survival, reduces inflammation, and supports the formation of long-term memories. Exercise reduces the risk of dementia and other chronic lifestyle diseases, acts as an antidepressant, and regulates mood. I know that most of us are aware, and most people actually, they are aware of the need for exercise. And there is one thing key that Mercy mentioned, that some people do something because others are doing it. You need to be very objective. Why am I engaging in exercise? And what exercise works for me? Because not every exercise, physical exercise, works for everyone. But what is this that worked for you? What is this work that works for me that can be very helpful, and I can be consistent in it? So it's very key to ensure that our physical health is prioritized for the sake of our physical brain. Then taking time to relax, taking time to be calm, being in a space whereby you are able to find some moment to calm down, to relax, to reflect, to rejuvenate. And we say that not all stress is bad, but chronic stress, especially life events that are out of control, can change the wiring of our brains. Too much cortisol, that is a stress hormone, prevents the birth of new neurons and causes the hippocampus, the brain structure involved in learning and memory, to shrink, reducing your powers of learning and memory. And I believe the first presenter was able to bring this in a better place, and she was able to demonstrate better how this happens. And I may say that once we allow the stressors to overwhelm us without giving ourselves an opportunity to deal with them, to work on them, to enable functionality, it may later bring a lot of effects in our health. So to distress, find your place or moment of calm. And this is individualized. You are not the same. Maybe personally, I may find having a nature walk, maybe sitting where there's some nice, cool, calm place, water and nature. I mean, it's very calming for me. Someone else may think, may feel maybe going somewhere like hiking or on a mountain or something. You know, every individual may find their best way that is calming for them, which is very helpful. Do something pleasurable, meditate, practice mindfulness, walk or nap. The most pleasure is to be found in doing something you're reasonably good at, and that also poses the degree of challenge. So that is very key and very helpful. Another aspect that we really emphasize is connection. Connect. We are born as a social animals and have a fundamental need for human warmth and connection. Having a supportive family and social connections, it really helps us live longer, happier, and healthier. Socializing reduces the harmful effects of stress and requires many complex cognitive functions such as thinking, feeling, sensing, reasoning, intuition. And we say that loneliness and social isolation have comparable impact on health and survival, examples, smoking. So meaning that as you isolate yourself, as you know, that aspect of not going out to interact, to have relationships, it's as vital as someone who is smoking. So meaning that the social connections is very key. And currently what you're identifying, especially as mentioned earlier, due to upgrade of technology currently, people have minimized their going out to reach out. People have minimized their going out to talk to other people. They have ended up isolating themselves, especially when they have issues. Why? Because they have lacked someone they can trust. They have lacked someone they can talk to. They feel they don't trust other people because they don't create time for other people. So I feel, and maybe what we really need to emphasize is the component for social support system, enhancing your connection, reaching out. And this one really brings a happy life, because we always say once you share out an issue, you know, somehow it's halfway solved. So social connections are very key, and this is one aspect that can help us have a healthy mind. Another aspect we say is to train your mind and being active. Challenge, keep your brain mentally active. And we say that adults who regularly challenge their minds and stay mentally active throughout life have healthier brains and are less likely to develop dementia. It's thought ongoing education and mentally challenging work build cognitive reserve, the capacity to cope better, and keeping working properly if any brain cells are damaged or die. Choose mentally challenging activities that you can practice regularly and are reasonably complex, and that take you out of your cognitive comfort zone. Try activities that combine mental, social, and physical challenges. And we really encourage, and personally also I'm on a journey of continuously engaging myself to keep myself busy, to ensure that my brain is continuously learning, getting those challenges. I know at times when we have very difficult tasks at work, a task that you really feel it's overwhelming, and these tasks are very healthy because they have kept your mind very active, and it gives you that challenge to ensure that you're thinking, you're able to go out of your comfort zone to do something about yourself. So if people can learn more of this, it's very helpful, so that they can always ensure they're busy, because we always say once you're not busy, you give an option, or of thinking negative things or things where you're not doing better. But when you continuously ensure you have a challenge, it always keeps your brain very healthy. Then we talk of finding a purpose. Like example, believing or seek out your purpose in life. And I believe that everyone has something that drives them, something that helps them be who they are, and they can achieve what they feel it's calming or it's life fulfilling. And that's why I say you find your North Star, your passion, your bliss, your inner voice, your wisdom, your calling, whatever you call it. Research has found that people who score high on life purpose live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. Do extraordinary things. Set fantastic, passionate goals and work life crazy to achieve them. Find your place of flow, that sweet spot where you so intensely and completely focus on the present moment and the task at hand, and that time passes effortlessly. We say that some say flow is the point of life. And I think having to, because I believe all of us has a purpose in life, and there's something that you really feel that drives you, that when you purpose to do it, it gives you so much joy, so much peace, and it gives you that flow for life. And if I can give a personal experience, I can say that Top Wellness Africa was formed as a purpose, out of purpose, identifying of what is this that I love doing? What is this that I would love doing? That even as I wake up every morning and I'm given the opportunity to do it, I can still do it. And it has brought so much joy in me when I go through into people's lives, and I'm able to give an impact based on, especially focusing on mental health, because that's what I love doing. So if we can find that purpose in life, I know at times we go through a lot of anxiety because you're not sure how it will end up. You're not sure how where to start or whom to come in and bring in to walk through this journey. But what I can encourage each one of us is to start it up, no matter how small it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how much it doesn't make sense to other people. If it makes sense to you, that is the most important thing. And I think that really helps you to have that healthy mind even as you continue in life. And the final thing maybe I may mention is about reaching out. It's okay not to be okay. And most times, especially during this period or this era, you find that people feel shy out of their issues that they are facing. They feel they don't have someone to trust. They feel they are not sure whom to talk to. They are not sure of whom they can tell their issues. And another thing I've realized is even including our young people, they have gone to Google. They already know what is expected of them. Even when you bring them in the sessions, when they go through therapies, they already at times know what they're being told. So they have familiarized with the process, but they have not been able to practice what is expected of them. So it's good to reach out. It's okay not to be okay. And at times we feel we are overwhelmed. We feel we are not okay. We are stressed out. We feel, we are not in the right space to continue with life. So we need to realize that it is okay not to be okay. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to reach to someone you trust. It's okay to seek out for help. And we say when you feel overwhelmed, you're unable to manage with stressors, reach out, talk to a professional who will refer you to, appropriately. Especially right now in Kenya, the health system is currently integrating mental health interventions, even at the primary level here, where we are trying also to identify the aspect of bottom-up approach from the community mental health and upwards, because that's where you're looking of prevention and promotive to ensure that we have the healthy mind. We say that most of the healthcare providers currently, even within these primary healthcare centers, have been trained on mental health. They have been trying to integrate, and the government has been mandated to integrate and even to have mental health intervention supported, budgeted for, so that everyone is able to access the mental health or they ensure there is holistic well-being even when they go to the doctors. And some of the issues that we've realized even through the health centers, there are some somatic symptoms presented in the health centers, which some are based out of the stressors you're facing. And this has portrays physically because you have been stressed over a long period of time, now going into depression. And some of the symptoms now that are presenting, they present physically because of what we learned earlier of how our body and mind are connected. And these symptoms are thereafter picked during the visit to the doctor and later referred for further intervention. So what I encourage is to seek out and to ensure that we get help as early as we can, which is very helpful. And most of the psychologists, the social workers, psychiatrists, and any other healthcare worker within these facilities are available and they can support or refer effectively. So what I can encourage is mention about all this in a nutshell is to build good habits. And these good habits are built by making it intentional, knowing that it's my responsibility to take up the good habits, to take care of my mind. It's up to me to ensure and learn what is this that I'm going to take in, allow in my mind. What is this that I need to prevent or not allow getting in my mind? And we always also teach more of the techniques that can help, especially during that pressure moment that you really feel stressed out. We have deep breath techniques. We have what you call stop thought techniques, something that can automatically help you into keeping you in the right state of mind and enable you to cope better. So in a nutshell is to say that all of us have the responsibility of taking care of our mind. We have the responsibility of taking care of our well-being. And you may reach out for help, but at the end of the day, it narrows back into you. I know it's a journey, and everyone in small ways can, create a plan of how to take care of themselves, how to ensure that they're putting their mind healthy, they're putting their bodies healthy. And I believe being a journey, as mentioned earlier, all of us are in it, and we are all trying to ensure that we have a healthy mind. And from my end, just to say thank you.
For that presentation. Indeed, very informative. To my surprise, I mean, sleep is an antidepressant. Was it exercise? Sorry. I mean, that is so profound for me. And I know people, tend to do it because it's in style, it's a trend.
Yeah.
But the fact that that's, I'd rather not go to get clinical medicine, but just move. For me, that is just mind blowing. And indeed.
Yeah. So, and that's why we encourage more of preventive and promotive. What can you do in your small spaces rather than allowing yourself to get into space whereby you're now being medicated for diverse mental illnesses. So in small ways, what you can manage to do, it's good to do it now when you can.
Indeed, that's really brilliant. I don't know if there's anyone else who has a question, comment. Please share on the chat or just unmute yourself and share with us.
Okay, I have a question. My name is Emma Kamau.
Yes, Karina.
And Nancy, that was, I didn't know that really sleep was that important. My question is, when we talk about sleep, do we also include the day sleep or should it be the night sleep? And how long, how many hours are we talking about in this case? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Thank you, it's good to see you connected. What we encourage is to have a routine sleep, and we encourage, especially for an adult, if possible, a maximum of at least 7 hours a night is very healthy. Mercy, you can correct me on this. But when you have enough sleep on your daily basis, making it routinely is very key. But remember also, some naps during the day also are very therapeutic. at times you may find that you've not been able to catch up with your whole night's sleep, maybe because of particular issues. Maybe it was not intentional. And you realize that having these naps, short naps during the day are very therapeutic. And that's why you find at times when you take a nap during the day and like 10 to 20 minutes, when you go back to work, you feel rejuvenated, you feel fresh. You feel like, it's a morning and, you tend to work better. So what we encourage is to just not have 7 hours, but a routine sleep. And if you purpose maybe to be in bed by 10, be in bed by 10, make it a practice and ensure that within those hours, 6 to 7 hours per night are very key, but we can say at least 7 hours are very helpful. That is for an adult. And night, if possible, you get an opportunity to have daily naps, like a nap, if possible, if your work allows, if your time allows. I mean, that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, maybe I could just say, add something onto what Nancy has said.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Yeah, it's important. What she said about 7 hours, yeah, is right. Like, it's recommended to get like 7 to 9 hours of sleep as an adult, simply because your brain needs to rejuvenate. It needs to rest, and sometimes it's 7 hours of interrupted sleep. Like, you do not get deep sleep. You're tossing and turning. So it's important just to ensure that even the hours leading up to sleep are intentionally made to help you relax, and be calm. So it's just not long hours of, sleep that wasn't restful. So just to add on to that, I think I like what she said about the knowledge of, just the health of your mind is in your hands. Even if you went to see a professional every day of the year and you're not taking up the responsibility as a person, these are the same things that you'll be told. Watch what you're eating, drink water, get enough rest, because it's very much related to your physiological like your mental.
Is it just me, or unless you're breaking or something?
Yeah, she is breaking, Mercy. Come again.
Can you hear?
Oh, okay. Mercy, please unmute yourself and just speak to us again.
Can you hear me, Barbara?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Sorry, I was just saying. Oh, sorry. What about now?
Yes, you're clear now.
Oh, I was just reiterating what Nancy has said, and just the linking of your physical health to your mental health, saying that it's important to ensure that you're taking care of your physiological health as well.
Indeed. Thank you for that notable contribution, especially about that relaxation that leads up to the sleep. I think many people lack that. And so it's a tossful night rather than a restful one. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's any other comment. Trufosa says thank you. Thank you, Nancy, so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Sorry?
I have a comment.
Yes, Sarah.
I'm Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah, based on whatever Nancy was presenting,
Yes.
I feel we are so much interested about the mental health of the adults, forgetting that we have the children that are growing up. We have the adolescents. Like me, I'm in an institution where I have the young people that I'm dealing with. And you find that the issue of mental health is so much affecting even the way they are learning the operation in the institution. So I feel this thing should come up even to the young people as they grow up, as we mentor the older people how to manage their mental health. It should also go down up to the young people so that they can be able to manage their life in whatever they are doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. And I think we can plan another session to also have that included, so that we can have a wholesome discuss, or rather a wholesome solution for the entire society. And also to note is that in our discussion today, in our short webinar, although our attendance was not what we expected, you can imagine, I think we only had one gentleman come in, who was John. I don't know if he's still there. Let me just confirm. No, he left. This is to say also that maybe men are having a harder time than us women, who we can be able to come together and talk about issues. However, we have men who may not necessarily be willing to step into that space and be vulnerable and share their feelings. I don't know what you have to say about that, Mercy and Nancy, because you're psychologists. Have you dealt with men before? Are they willing to come to your to sessions? Do they speak up in sessions? Could you please share?
Thank you, Barbara, for that question. From my experience, we have those who are seeking help, but we have those who are not. But currently, I may say that to the level of issues that have been overwhelming, especially after the pandemic, I've seen a higher number of men seeking help. They have come to realize that mental health is real, and it's their responsibility to take up the services. However, some that they're still a bit reserved. What most of the specialists or mental health specialists have done is to form men's spaces where men interact with men, so that they're able to seek out for help, they're able to seek out for services, and they're able to talk to someone. And after the aspect of the nyumba kumi coming up, nowadays they normally say I've seen men forming chamas, and they say, nah, I'm going for a chama. And when you ask them what happens in the chama is a bit different with our chamas. Sometimes we may be speaking of money, but for them, they're speaking of sharing. So this is just but a small population that is aware. But I'm thinking of the other places that you'll see, like based on urbanization currently, with more of people coming into towns, and where some of these developments are happening. But within our rural setup, again, remember we have our men there. And some, because of lack of information about the mental health component, lack of services, access to services are minimal sometimes, especially within this rural aspect. And even including the urban setup, there's still the mental health aspect of it is not so accessible to all of them. But I can say that with time, with the rate that you're moving with, very soon we hope that the men will be taking up and they'll be coming out to enhance on this, especially also having the mental health professionals being men who are helping us also to champion on this component and reaching out to men. So in a small proportion, yes, they are reaching out, but still there's a lot that needs to be done when it comes to the aspect of mental health and mental well-being.
Indeed. I think that is something we need to converse, especially, all the psychologists that were here today. I think that's a champion, or rather a cause we could begin, a program, and maybe call it, like for the he for she campaign for women. So we try and put something similar for the men. Yeah, and I don't know if you had anything to say in terms of what Madam Sarah said, in terms of the children and adolescents.
Okay. Yeah, maybe to comment is there's dire need on that. And some of the issues that are currently also coming out because of the change of technology, upgrade and etc., the children and adolescents are affected. And as most of these cases are coming because of sometimes you have seen issues in relations to home, back at home, And what do you talk about the social aspect of it? The social determinants issues also affecting children so much. So you see the mentorship of these parents, the mentorship from parents to the children is very minimal currently. They are not available for these children. They are not available for this adolescent, maybe because of work-related aspect, maybe because of themselves, they are struggling. They have underlying childhood traumas or issues that are still going through. So you find that that ability to come in and support and guide is very minimal. And I may mention something. There's the recent study that has been done by APHRC concerning adolescents and children and adolescents well-being, the mental well-being. And one aspect when it comes to the social support system that the research showed was that these young people are willing to reach out for help more from their religious leaders, more from their teachers than even from their parents, you see? So they were asked, whom do you feel you're comfortable to talk to when you have an issue? Who is your to-go-to person? And most of them were talking about the religious leaders. And by this, we mean in churches. So you realize that maybe parents need also to be really supported so that they're also able to support their children. At the same time, it's more of an inclusive aspect of it, because we just don't need the parents in it, but we need all the teachers, the institutions coming in to ensure the well-being of children and adolescents is very key. And another thing to mention, the use of technology is high. And when they feel depressed, they Google what is depression. When they feel something, they Google. And you'll see, even when they come and tell you something, they will tell you what is in the book. They have read that. So we need to mobilize and help them identify and learn how to practice necessary skills that are very helpful for them to cope better during this period. So I agree that this is very key and very important, so that you're able to support even as they grow up, as they transition to adulthood. Yeah.
Points that we are learning, and we will continue this conversation so that we can be able to enrich the entire society and really liberate ourselves from this menace. Yes, I don't know if there's anyone else who has a question to Nancy, or just general comment.
I can see Mercy had dropped a bit, but I can see she's back. Yeah, so I'm sure she'll be ready also to answer in case of any question here.
Yeah. Yes, Mercy, did you have anything to add in terms of the adolescents and the men, yes, and the children in terms of their mental health, their willingness to talk about it, to approach it, and how it's also being tackled for them? Okay, I guess that's okay. Maybe she didn't have any comment. And I'd just like to thank you all for participating and attending this talk. We look forward to having many more sessions on this, so that we can learn how to live healthy lives wholesomely. Again, I would like to thank you, and I look forward to having you all in our upcoming webinars. So thank you, and feel free to just exit when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for having us. We really appreciate it. It has been very informative. And thank you, everyone, for connecting. We wish you all the best. Thank you for the good job.
Thank you.